Eli stepped into the small shower stall, letting the warm water run over his tired body. The day had been long. Fixing malfunctioning power relays in the colony's outer sector was never easy, and he still had half a dozen repairs to check before heading home. He closed his eyes for a moment, enjoying the rare calm. Steam curled around him like a soft blanket, and for the first time in hours he allowed himself to breathe. Then everything changed. A sudden shimmer in the air caught his eye. At first he thought it was just the heat of the water distorting the light. But the shimmer grew, pulsing like a heartbeat, until it solidified into a figure standing in the middle of his shower. Eli froze, the water running over his shoulders, but his mind raced. The figure was humanoid, but unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin seemed to ripple in colors he could barely describe, like liquid glass catching every hue of the room. Her eyes glowed faintly, intelligent and sharp, and her posture was relaxed but confident, as though she had been expecting him. "You what?" Eli stammered, blinking rapidly. The figure tilted her head and smirked. That smirk sent an odd mixture of unease and fascination through him. She didn't speak at first. She just looked him over, her gaze sharp yet playful. Eli's first instinct was to back away, but there was nowhere to go in the small shower stall. His mind raced for explanations. An intruder. Some kind of alien spy? A hallucination? But the heat of the water, the sound of it splashing against the floor, the very reality of the tiles beneath his feet, all of it confirmed she was real. Finally, she spoke, her voice melodic but clear. "I hope you don't mind," she said, tilting her head again. "I was told this was the easiest way to reach you." "The easiest way to reach me?" He glanced around, hoping for a hidden door or some advanced hologram explaining this impossible scenario. What are you?" "I don't even wait, why me?" He tried to sound composed, but his voice betrayed him, trembling slightly. Lyra stepped closer, the light around her shifting softly as she moved. She didn't seem aggressive, not at all, yet her presence filled the room completely. "You have potential," she said simply. "Abilities your kind does not even realize you possess. I need to see if you are suitable for what is to come." "Suitable for what?" he asked cautiously, trying not to sound panicked. Lyra's smirk grew. "That will become clear. For now, just know that I am here and you are the key." That realization sent a thrill through him, equal parts fear and excitement. He tried to step backward, but the water made the floor slippery. Lyra noticed, but she didn't move to help. Instead, she tilted her head as though silently judging him. Eli quickly regained his balance, breathing a little faster. "Okay," he said finally, trying to sound calm. "If you're a scout then, why appear in my shower?" "Only to observe and to learn, and perhaps if you are willing to work with you." Maybe humans really did have more to offer the galaxy than anyone realized. He nodded slowly. "All right, I guess I can try to help, but first, maybe we should move somewhere a bit more normal." One second she was there and the next she had stepped back and the shower stall was empty, though the faint trace of her light lingered in the air. "Wait," he said, stepping out of the stall. "Can you talk? I mean, understand me?" "Soon." And yet here she was, shimmering and glowing, speaking words that made sense in his mind, even though she clearly didn't speak human normally. And despite the absurdity, he felt pride. Humans were underestimated, and maybe this was the moment to prove just how capable they could be. He sighed, running a hand through his wet hair. "All right, so what's the first step?" "You said you're testing me." Composed is not the word I would use. But there was a thrill in knowing he might be important, in knowing that humans could rise to challenges no one expected them to. "Okay," he said finally, his voice firmer. "I'll play along, but can we maybe start with introductions? I'm Eli, and you are. And soon you will see why our paths have crossed. Humans might be small in the galaxy, often underestimated, but maybe, just maybe, this was the moment they could show what they were truly capable of." He glanced around his apartment, now quiet again except for the sound of the shower running. Somehow he didn't feel invaded or threatened anymore. Instead, he felt chosen, and there was power in being chosen. Lyra watched him, her smirk returning, but this time it was softer, approving. "You are ready," she said, though she didn't explain how or why. "And soon you will do more than you ever imagined." And for the first time in a long while, he didn't just feel small and ordinary. He felt important. Because sometimes the universe didn't choose the strongest. It chose the clever, the adaptable, the human, and Eli was about to find out exactly what that meant. The next morning, Eli woke up to a strange feeling in his chest. The memory of the previous night, the shimmer, the alien, the impossible conversation, had not faded. Instead, it seemed more real than ever. He rubbed his eyes, sat up, and realized that Lyra was sitting calmly in the corner of his small living space. "Good morning," she said, her voice calm, almost musical. "You slept well, I see." You didn't go. You're going to quiz me or something." Simple demonstrations of creativity, problem-solving, and improvisation. Nothing dangerous. I wish to see how your mind works. Let us begin. I want you to interact with them in any way you choose. There are no instructions, no rules. I will watch what you do. Your creativity will guide me. He reached for a cube and tapped it lightly. A soft light spread across its surface, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Eli smiled slightly. This was strange, yes, but it was also fascinating. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "I can figure this out." Some actions triggered small flashes of light, others emitted melodic tones. Lyra observed silently, occasionally tilting her head, her eyes reflecting curiosity and approval. Finally, Eli stepped back, hands wet from the shower still lingering in his hair. "I think I understand some of it. They respond to patterns, movements, and maybe intention." Humans often discover patterns where others see randomness. That is admirable. Humans, you adapt without realizing it. This time, a panel in the corner of the room emitted a holographic projection. It was a miniature section of the colony's power grid, flickering and sparking with small failures. "You are to repair this," Lyra said simply. "Without instructions, without tools besides what you can improvise from your surroundings." Normally, he would have panicked, but something inside him sparked, a confidence he hadn't felt in years. Humans could improvise, humans could solve problems under pressure. He stepped forward, scanning the projection carefully. He noticed patterns in the sparks, small inconsistencies that suggested which connections were overloaded. He adjusted nodes mentally, signaling where energy needed rerouting. Using pieces of wire from a nearby charging station, he mimicked connections on the hologram. Slowly, the flickering subsided, light stabilizing in a pattern he had devised instinctively. Lyra's eyes glimmered. "Impressive. Most species would have failed in half the time, requiring guidance." "You found solutions." "Adaptation," Lyra explained, "requires more than intellect. It requires movement, flexibility, and quick thinking. Navigate this space, reach the far side." Taking a deep breath, he jumped to the nearest floating platform, using his arms to push off gently. He calculated momentum, adjusting midair, avoiding collisions with spinning panels. Lyra watched, impressed. "Your coordination is unusual. Humans' bodies are not always optimized for physics challenges, yet your adaptability is remarkable." He landed awkwardly but safely on solid ground. His heart pounded, but the thrill was exhilarating. "Done," he said breathlessly, laughing at the absurdity of the situation. "Did I pass?" Humans' greatest strength is their ability to combine intellect, creativity, and intuition. That is what makes you valuable. Lyra moved closer, tilting her head as if considering him more deeply. "Do you see why I chose you? Why I smirked when I first arrived?" That combination can change outcomes in ways that are fascinating. Lyra led him to the balcony overlooking the colony. "The galaxy is observing. Many species assume humans are weak, but humans can plan, improvise, and unite. Show me your insight, predict a sequence I have created." But then he noticed subtle rhythms, cues in color and intensity. His mind worked rapidly, predicting the next movements. When he indicated the sequence aloud, the holographic display aligned perfectly with his predictions. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly, brighter than before. "Most would have failed or required hours of trial. You saw patterns instinctively. Humans, you are underestimated far too often. You must be willing to act, to think quickly, to combine skills in unexpected ways." As the day progressed, Eli tackled smaller challenges, constructing devices from alien components, rerouting energy in simulated malfunctions, improvising solutions to impossible puzzles. Each task was difficult, pushing him beyond his comfort zone. But with each success, his confidence grew. Lyra observed silently most of the time, occasionally stepping in with subtle hints, never giving direct answers. "Your species is remarkable," she commented at one point. "You succeed not by strength alone, but by combination. Creativity, intuition, determination, that is rare." Lyra stood beside him, her gaze calm yet intense. "You have done well," she said simply. "You are ready for greater tests, but for now, rest. Tomorrow will be different." It was in their ability to adapt, to think differently, and to rise to challenges no one expected them to meet. And with Lyra observing, testing, and guiding, he was about to discover exactly how far that strength could take him, and maybe the entire colony. For the first time, Eli felt that being underestimated might be the greatest advantage humans had. Eli woke to the hum of the colony's early morning energy grid. The sun, or what passed for it in the outer sector, poured pale light through the small window of his apartment. Lyra was already there, floating slightly above the ground with her arms crossed, observing him with that familiar smirk. "Morning," Eli said cautiously, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "Another day of tests." "I'm not sure I follow." "You must navigate this scenario," Lyra explained. "A system failure has occurred. You have limited resources and time. Stabilize the grid before the energy overload causes damage." The challenge made his pulse quicken, but he also felt that familiar spark, the spark of human ingenuity. He knelt by the holographic console and began analyzing the failures. Sparks flashed, nodes flickered, and energy lines pulsed dangerously. Eli scanned the projection carefully, his mind moving faster than ever. Humans were good at solving problems under pressure. This was instinct. Lyra watched silently. Notice patterns, anticipate failures, predict outcomes. His hands moved almost automatically, connecting points and creating temporary solutions while keeping the system balanced. Minutes passed and the simulation escalated. New failures appeared, more complex than the first. Eli's heart raced, but he didn't panic. He knew humans thrived in chaos, finding order where others saw only randomness. He adapted, adjusting energy flows, repurposing simulated tools, and predicting failures before they occurred. Lyra's eyes glimmered. "Excellent. Most species would crumble under such pressure. You anticipate, you improvise, you think several steps ahead." Slowly, the flickering nodes began to stabilize, energy flows became balanced, and the miniature grid hummed smoothly. Lyra floated closer, smiling faintly. "You see, adaptation and intellect combined create results no brute force can achieve. That is why your species can exceed expectations." It worked. And yet here he was, solving a problem no ordinary species could handle alone. Lyra did not wait long before the next trial began. This time the walls shimmered and the room transformed again. Gravity shifted, becoming erratic, making his footing unstable. Platforms floated midair, spinning slowly, and holographic obstacles appeared, representing dangerous machinery in the colony. "You must move through this space," Lyra said, "without touching the hazards. Humans are adaptable, not naturally optimized for such challenges, yet your species succeeds where others fail because of intuition and ingenuity." But humans were good at thinking fast, adjusting to unexpected conditions, and using whatever they had at hand. He leapt onto a floating platform, calculating the spin and momentum instinctively. Panels shifted beneath him, forcing him to jump again, grabbing floating bars and using them to swing to the next platform. Every movement required quick thinking, prediction, and trust in his instincts. Several times he almost fell, but his hands and feet found small edges or grips he hadn't expected. Lyra observed silently, noting each adjustment. "You improvise in motion as you do in thought. That is remarkable." His chest heaved, sweat dripping down, but he couldn't stop the smile spreading across his face. "Done," he panted. Lyra's glow brightened slightly. "You excel not by design, but by nature. Humans are unpredictable, clever, and adaptable. That combination allows survival and success where others falter. I think I get why you smirked when you first saw me. You knew humans could handle this kind of thing." Lyra projected a simulation of the colony facing multiple simultaneous crises: supply shortages, equipment failures, and communication blackouts. Eli was tasked with solving the problems in sequence, balancing priorities, and allocating resources effectively. Eli's mind raced. Normally, humans would panic under this kind of pressure, but humans also thrived on solving real-time problems. He assigned priorities, calculated how best to use limited tools, and improvised solutions where none seemed possible. He rerouted communications using old satellites, repaired minor equipment failures with makeshift parts, and stabilized supply chains using predictive timing. Lyra watched silently. "Observe, adapt, act. That is your method. That is why your species succeeds." Eli's body was exhausted, but his mind remained sharp. Each problem he solved reinforced something he hadn't realized before. Humans could rise to challenges that others saw as impossible. Resourcefulness, creativity, and intuition combined to create a force no brute strength could match. By evening, the simulations ended. Eli collapsed onto a chair, drained but exhilarated. Lyra floated beside him, her eyes glowing softly. "You have proven much today," she said. "Your species thrives under pressure. You adapt, you think, you act, and in that combination lies your strength. And that underestimation is a weapon in your favor." Humans were not small, weak, or insignificant. Humans were clever, resourceful, and capable of adapting to challenges no one else could. And he had just proven it, under observation, under trial, and under extreme pressure. Lyra's smirk softened into a more genuine smile. "Do you understand now why I chose you? Why I smirked when I appeared?" "Because humans are more than they seem." "So what happens now?" Humans could adapt, improvise, and survive challenges no other species could handle. And with Lyra's guidance, he was beginning to understand just how far that strength could take them. For the first time, he didn't feel small or ordinary. He felt capable, valued, and ready to face whatever came next. Because sometimes the universe doesn't reward the strongest, it rewards the clever. The adaptable, the human. And Eli was learning exactly how extraordinary that could be. Eli woke to a sudden alarm blaring through the colony. The red lights reflected off the walls of his apartment, and the floor vibrated faintly beneath his feet. He jumped out of bed, heart racing, and saw Lyra already hovering near the window, her expression serious for the first time since their first meeting. "Eli," she said urgently, "there is a real threat. The outer energy grid has begun to fail, and several supply nodes are at risk. This is no simulation." "Okay," he said, trying to steady his voice. "What's the situation?" The outer power relay, the central node, and 2 supply depots were all flashing dangerously. "You must stabilize these systems," Lyra explained. "You will have minimal assistance from me. Humans can succeed where over-reliance on technology fails. Your ingenuity will be the key." He scanned the projection carefully, noting patterns in the failures. The power relay was overloading intermittently, the supply depots were losing connection, and minor fires had begun in some maintenance sectors. He knew he had to act fast. He grabbed his portable toolkit, scanning the holographic interface for weak points. "All right, first step, I stabilized the relay," he muttered, moving toward the nearest access port. Sparks flew as he connected rerouted circuits, improvising with wires and connectors scavenged from nearby maintenance drones. Lyra observed silently, her eyes glowing brighter with approval. "Good. Predict outcomes. Anticipate secondary failures." He had learned this instinctively from his trials. He quickly calculated how the energy would flow after his adjustments and began redirecting it to less stressed nodes. Sparks cracked and the lights flickered, but the system held. "Relay stabilized," he announced, wiping sweat from his brow. "Next, supply depots." Communication lines were down and storage units were malfunctioning. He remembered one of Lyra's earlier lessons. Humans excel when combining intuition with observation. He traced the wiring, spotted the damaged segments, and improvised connections using spare cables and the depot's emergency converters. The depot hummed back to life, its lights stabilizing. Eli moved to the second depot, encountering a more complicated problem. A critical conveyor system had jammed, blocking essential supplies. He examined the mechanism, identified a sequence of obstructions, and manually rerouted energy to bypass the jam. Using a combination of leverage and timing, he freed the conveyor, allowing supplies to flow again. Lyra hovered nearby, her expression almost unreadable but her eyes bright. "Excellent. Most species would panic under pressure. Humans thrive in such situations." He examined the panels and quickly realized that the signals could be rerouted through older, less efficient channels. It would take careful timing, but it could restore essential communications. He connected the first line, then the second, adjusting the timing and energy flow. The hub flickered, sputtered, and then stabilized. Messages from colony sectors began to stream through. Lyra's eyes glimmered. "Observation. Humans combine creativity, intuition, and action. That is rare. That is what makes you formidable." The outer sectors had been weakened, and the malfunction could return if not addressed completely. He moved to the outer relay station, a towering structure at the edge of the colony. Energy arcs danced along the conduits, threatening to overload. Eli climbed the access ladder, his mind working rapidly to identify the root cause. He realized that a combination of maintenance neglect and the strain of the colony's expansion had triggered the failure. Improvising, he rerouted circuits, reinforced energy flows with spare conduits, and manually adjusted the energy regulators to stabilize the relay. Sparks flew, and a sudden surge knocked him backward, but he rolled to safety. Humans were resilient in ways other species underestimated. Every movement, every calculation he made was precise and instinctive. Finally, the outer relay stabilized. Lights on the projection in his apartment shifted from red to green, signaling that the immediate danger was over. Eli exhaled, exhausted but triumphant. Lyra floated beside him, her expression more than approval now. There was admiration. Humans succeed not by strength, not by perfection, but by adaptability, creativity, and persistence. You embody those traits. I only needed to find someone willing to act. Lyra gestured, and the room shifted again, projecting a panoramic view of the entire colony. Observe the outcomes, she said. Every sector you stabilized will continue to function, but future challenges will escalate. You must remain vigilant, adaptable, and ready to innovate. That is your greatest weapon. Fires had been contained, energy stabilized, and communications restored. The colony had survived because he acted quickly, thinking beyond conventional limits. He realized that the combination of knowledge, instinct, and improvisation, human traits that were often underestimated, had made the difference. Lyra moved closer. You understand now, don't you? Your species is underestimated. That underestimation gives you freedom, advantage, and power. Others assume weakness. You know the truth. You are capable beyond what they imagine. And you, Eli, have proven it today. Lyra watched silently, then finally spoke, her tone almost approvingly gentle. This is what I hope to observe. Humans thrive under pressure. You improvise, adapt, and act decisively. That combination is rare. That combination ensures survival and success. Supplies, energy, and communications had been restored, and he had done it not through brute force, but through clever thinking, quick adaptation, and unwavering persistence. Lyra floated beside him, her glow softening. The galaxy does not often recognize your species' potential. You are underestimated, yes, but underestimated individuals can accomplish extraordinary feats. Today, you have shown that humans can solve problems no other species could. Others may not see it yet, but they will, and you have proven it in practice. You have done remarkably well. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, and each will require your skills, your mind, and your heart. But remember this, your species has power in ways few recognize, and you are living proof. The galaxy had yet to see what humans were truly capable of, and he felt honored to be among the first to demonstrate it. As he lay back, Lyra's presence beside him a silent reassurance, Eli felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that underestimation was a gift. It allowed them to rise, to innovate, and to succeed where others would fail. And he was ready to continue proving it. The trials had become real. The stakes were higher than ever. And Eli knew one thing for certain. Humans were only just beginning to show the galaxy what they could do. The sun had barely risen over the colony when Eli awoke to an urgent vibration under his feet. His heart raced as he sat up, instantly alert. The alarms were silent this time, replaced by an eerie hum that ran through the walls and floor. Lyra hovered near the window, her usual playful smirk replaced by a focused, serious expression. It has begun, she said softly, her glowing eyes scanning the horizon. An external threat approaches. The colony is at risk. You must act, Eli. An alien species seeking to destabilize colonies they deem weak. They underestimate humans. That is their mistake. Lyra gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the middle of the room, showing the colony in detail. Red blips marked the advancing alien ships, sleek, fast, and heavily armed. Their approach was coordinated, precise, and designed to overwhelm. The outer defense grid could not hold for long without immediate action. You must stabilize the colony and create defensive strategies, Lyra said. Rely on your ingenuity, your intuition, and your species' unique abilities. You will not have help from others outside this room. The outcome depends on you. He focused, recalling every lesson from Lyra's challenges. Humans were clever, adaptable, and resourceful. That combination would be his greatest weapon. He ran to the command console, his hands moving over panels and touchscreens, improvising connections where circuits were overloaded and rerouting energy to defense turrets. Each calculation, each adjustment was critical. The alien ships were fast and their weapons precise. Every second mattered. Lyra hovered beside him, her presence steady but non-intrusive. Humans do not rely solely on power or numbers. You rely on observation, adaptation, and creative problem-solving. That is why you succeed. He activated automated defense drones, directing them to intercept the first wave of alien ships. At the same time, he rerouted power to shields over critical infrastructure, ensuring the colony's core systems would remain protected. The first wave of ships struck. Beams of energy flashed across the sky, and the colony shook from the impacts. But Eli's adjustments worked. The shields held. The drones intercepted several ships, causing them to falter. He quickly recalculated trajectories and adjusted defenses in real time. Lyra's eyes glimmered. Excellent. Most species would panic. Humans excel under pressure. Observe, adapt, act. That is your method. That is why you survive. He saw a breach in one of the outer energy barriers and directed a team of drones to reinforce it, improvising new energy loops from spare circuits. The alien ships tried to exploit weaknesses, but each time, Eli anticipated their moves, adapting faster than they could react. Hours passed like minutes. The alien forces were relentless, but Eli's combination of intellect, intuition, and improvisation kept the colony safe. Every turret, every drone, every shield pulse was carefully timed and coordinated, not by brute strength, but by clever thinking and human ingenuity. Lyra's voice broke the tension. Observe their pattern. Humans do not merely react, they anticipate. That is why they are underestimated. That is why you are remarkable. Using a combination of drones, improvised shields, and rapid energy rerouting, he stabilized the depot. Sparks flew, systems whined under pressure, but he kept every function running. Lyra's glow brightened. Impressive. You combine adaptation, creativity, and courage. That is why humans succeed. That is why you will survive where others fail. Another wave approached, targeting communications arrays to isolate the colony. He rerouted communications through backup channels, improvising paths that no one outside this room could have predicted. Signals flickered, then stabilized. Messages from colony sectors began streaming again, allowing coordinated defense. The aliens, observing humans' response, hesitated. They were precise, calculating, and expected resistance, but not this. The humans' ability to adapt in real time, to improvise solutions, to combine intellect with intuition, was unlike anything they had encountered. They underestimated their opponent, and that would be their mistake. Eli realized the truth of Lyra's earlier words. Humans thrived under pressure not because of raw power, but because of their minds and their flexibility. Every challenge forced them to think creatively, to innovate, to act decisively. That combination made them dangerous. That combination made them survivors. He activated the final defense measure, combining energy redirection with drone swarms to intercept the last wave of alien ships. Beams clashed in the sky, explosions rocked the horizon, but Eli's strategy held. The alien ships faltered, then retreated, unable to penetrate the colony's defenses. Lyra floated beside him, her eyes bright. Observation. Humans succeed where others fail. Your species is underestimated across the galaxy, but that underestimation is your strength. You act with creativity, adaptation, and intuition. That is why you are formidable. And it was not brute force that had won the day, but clever thinking, rapid adaptation, and resourcefulness, the very traits Lyra had been observing all along. Lyra's smirk returned, softer now, more approving than ever. "Do you understand why I chose you?" she asked. "Do you understand why I smirked when I first appeared in your shower?" Humans are underestimated, and that underestimation makes us capable. It forces us to think, to adapt, to survive, and it can make us stronger than anyone expects. You have shown why humans are a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy has yet to see the true extent of your species' abilities, but I have seen it, and I have witnessed it in you. He had faced the impossible, relied on his instincts, and adapted in ways no one could have expected. Humans had been underestimated, and yet they had triumphed. Lyra floated closer, her smirk returning, though gentler this time. The galaxy underestimates humans because they do not understand your ingenuity. They do not see your creativity, your adaptability, or your courage. But now you know. And you have proven it. And that is why I have chosen to observe you. You have done remarkably well. The galaxy has not seen the last of this species. Humans are underestimated, yes, but you have shown why that will change. They thrived under pressure, solved problems no one else could, and had the power to shape the galaxy in ways others had never imagined. As he finally closed his eyes, exhaustion and triumph washing over him, he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. And now, thanks to ingenuity, courage, and adaptability, it would never do so again. Because humans were underestimated, and underestimated humans had the power to change everything, and Eli had proven it.